because to be colonized, it's not a pleasant experience. You can talk to an Afghan, or to an Iraqi, or to a Palestinian, or to others who are under occupation today, and they will tell you across the board, I can say with confidence, that it's a very uncomfortable, humiliating thing to be occupied, particularly by someone who does not speak your language, is not even part of your ethnic grouping, does not share your culture or religion. Here, the New York Times, referring to Afghanistan, the good war still to be won. This has always been the good war for them. Iraq was problematic. Iraq was a mistake. Notice they never say it was a crime. It is an absolutely impeachable war crime. That does not differ in any respect from the German invasion of Norway or the German invasion of France. This is premeditated war. And this is why the German generals and high-ranking officers of the Nazi state were hanged at Nuremberg for the planning and waging of aggressive war. So these are major war crimes. So I don't believe the way forward is accomplished by ignoring the crimes that have been committed. The criminals should be brought to justice. This is not just a legal issue. This is not just a legal issue, brothers and sisters. It's a very important moral issue for our own dignity. The whole world is watching as Cheney and Wolfowitz and Bush, who goes to Toronto last week and makes $150,000, to mumble a few things in ungrammatical English. The whole world is looking at these people walking around and saying, where is the justice? And we have to ask this question over and over again, because Obama says no one is above the law. Okay, let's take him at his word. Why are these people being, held in some kind of special category as being above the law, apparently? So I'm not going to drop this, and I think we should not as well. It requires courage to speak out on this issue, as the type of courage that King exemplified, particularly at that speech he gave in New York, the Riverside Church speech, on April 4th, 1967, exactly a year before he was assassinated. Again, cut down by an assassin's bullet in Memphis. And if you read, I'll read you a few excerpts from this speech. If you were just to put Iraq or Afghanistan in lieu of every time he mentions Vietnam, he's speaking to us today. He hasn't missed a beat, because the patterns repeat themselves. The militarism, the aggression, the justifications for militarism and aggression, all cloaked in, doctrines of benign intention, democracy, liberation, freedom, human rights. These are all the tropes which are used to befuddle and bewilder the American citizenry into going along with what can only be described as aggressive acts of militarism. Let me just read you a few excerpts. This madness must cease. They, in this case it was the Vietnamese, must see Americans as strange liberators. Each day the war goes on. Hatred increases in the hearts of the fill in the blank, and in the hearts of those of humanitarian instinct. The Americans are forcing even their friends into becoming their enemies. It is curious that the Americans, who calculate so carefully on the possibilities of military victory, do not realize that in the process they are incurring deep psychological and political defeat. The image of America will never again be the image of revolution, freedom, and democracy, but the image of violence and militarism. And then King goes on. A true revolution of values will soon cause us to question the fairness and justice of many of our past and present policies. You know, I like to make the joke, kind of taking off from something Studs Terkel once said. You know, we live in the USA, the United States of amnesia. There's no memory. Last week is history. Last month is ancient history. And last year, you know, I don't know what kind of Paleo or Neolithic era, you know, that qualifies as. But one of the things that community radio does and independent media does is to, you know, educate our citizenry about history. What has happened before and what can we learn from the past? You know, there's that great quote in 1984, an evergreen book. You could just pick up and read a few pages and get something that sounds like, hey, that's going on today. Orwell says, those who control the past control the present, those who control the present control the future. So engineering history becomes a very ideological task for the elites. And we have seen how this has played out. I've seen it in India. I've described how Ghandi has been essentially, you know, become this very nice, old, non-threatening figure. And King in this country very much the same way. So we need to recover our past so that we can live consciously in the present.